All right, we're live streaming. I wonder if are we live right now? I think this is it. Hey everybody, welcome to the community chat. You may have noticed we got some cool bars down here. Thanks everyone for coming. Hey Sharon, hey Rochelle, hey Keith, hey Mary Richards. We already got a question. Good. I was wondering when we start this up, what am I going to talk about? But it looks like Mary is already saying, hello everyone. My question is, can the spirits and angels see us and hear us and watch us all the time? So let's get right into it. That's the point of this thing we're doing here is we'll talk about these concepts, look for how can these ideas make life better for us. So can spirits and angels hear us and watch us all the time? There's a complicated answer as far as Swedenborg is concerned because he seemed to describe situations in which spirits were very aware of what he was doing, that they were commenting on the kinds of things he ate, that he was eating a certain, I think we mentioned this in the show, he was eating a certain kind of butter. Hey Sharon says hi. Hey Keith, everybody. TT Epic 76, nice to see you all. Matthias, Starseed, Dino S. You guys can see yourselves on here. Hey, how's it going? Mr. Okill 246. So Swedenborg, the spirits would even know he's eating butter. And they would say, no, don't eat butter, eat this instead. But then again, he would sometimes say, well, I'm in a special position because not that it's unique to me, but in general, people aren't as plugged into both worlds, so there's not the same communication. That he'll talk about spirits who are with us, who have no idea that they're with us, but they can sense our feelings and our thoughts, and that they take on the things inside of us, our memory and that kind of thing. So there's sort of examples in which it seems like, no, they don't cross the barrier. They look at the inner contents of our spirits, but then there's other scenarios where it seems like they know exactly what they're doing. I would like to think angels can tune in and see what I'm doing to keep tabs on me and help me make the right investments. But I don't know. Katana HD says, I have a question. When I die, will I see someone I lost? Yeah, that one is a yes, for sure. From a Swedenborgian perspective. Nick of the Truth, I'm glad that you finally caught a live chat. It's great to have you here with us. And in case I haven't explained what we're doing here, we're trying to make you part of the conversation. We're trying to have it so that you get to, if anything I'm talking about, comment, give your opinion on it. If you have a perspective on it, if you've had an experience that interacts with it, I want to hear it. I want to hear it. And we're going to have some special guests join us in a couple of minutes, so it should be a good way to spend a couple of minutes. So when I die, will I see someone I lost? Yes. According to Swedenborg, he has lots of passages about people seeing loved ones in the next life, this being a very joyful occasion, and it's because love attracts in the spiritual world. That like gravity here pulls things together, in the world of the spirit, love is what creates closeness. So if you have somebody you love and they love you, as soon as you're both in the spirit, they're pulling together. So that he's very clear about. Hey, Matthew Bush. Wait, where's everybody from? I see that Zeb Raja is from the UK. Anybody here from, is it mostly Europeans? Oh, is this time slot hard for Americans? Or where are you from? I want to know, just to think about, when do we do this in the future, and that kind of thing. Katana HD says, do we have different names in heaven? I think yes. So Swedenborg says that name is a correspondence with quality, and that in heaven, everything that you are corresponds to the things that are inside you. So right here, we look a certain way, and that's not because that's how we are in our spirit. It's because of genetics. It's because of the kind of nutrition we got growing up. It's because of the environment and the pressures on us from that. That has a lot to do with how we look. But there, we look like we really are inside. Swedenborg says angels can actually be the form of their loving thoughtfulness. So we got Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, California.
Sweden, Canada.
Stuart says Sweden and Canada. Stuart is right here making all this stuff happen. Awesome. Okay, so Charleston, Florida. So it's all over. It's all over the place. I'm glad that this works for you. As I said, we're having a meeting on Monday night, so that if that time slot works better, if you're watching this in post. Let's see. I was talking about something super important. Oh, it was the name. All right. So you asked me a question about a name, and I went off on how you look. But the name as well comes to reflect us. That we are given. We have a name that is a description of the quality of us, and the words that we have describing relationships change. Swedenborg says that married partners aren't called husband and wife. They are called a word that means belonging to the other. So things there are better described. Because here, what's your name? I mean, I have a daughter and we picked a name. Like your parents pick a name and that's what it is. You can change if you want. But there, the name, like everything else, emerges from the essence of you. What are you looking at? Dino S? It says, so not based on the teachings of Christ. And I'm wondering if you're talking about Swedenborg, because Swedenborg is this fascinating convergence where he is like so Jesus Christ focused that I don't think in Luther or in anybody you could find somebody who's more based on Jesus. And when Swedenborg uses the term the Lord, he's talking about Jesus. But you'll get plenty of people who are hesitant to engage with Christianity or don't like it at all, who are very into Swedenborg because he has this universal message about how many faith paths can be the right way to go to heaven and how open and accepting it seems. And the way those two work is that Jesus, and then we're just getting into this in a show that we're working on here, but Jesus Christ is the embodiment of God. This is divine love and wisdom made accessible, made personal, that all across, Swedenborg says, even on other planets, people recognize that the human, visible God, that's God, and that's what Jesus Christ is. So Swedenborg, at the beginning of his book, True Christianity, said he was a servant of the Lord Jesus Christ. So yes, Dino S says, so is it based in Christianity? Yes, and I also find that it's not interfaces well with so many traditions. There's a guy, D.T. Suzuki, who wrote a book called Swedenborg, Buddha of the North, showing how much similarity there was between Swedenborg and Eastern traditions. But then also, Swedenborg is usually described as a Christian mystic. And he says that somebody called his teachings Swedenborgianism when he was alive, and he wrote in a letter, they're not Swedenborgianism, they're true Christianity. So he's both identifiable and unidentifiable, because you just got to get into the material and you'll see, start to scroll through the videos on our channel and you'll see that there's such a variety of topics. He gets into everything. We're talking about the origin of thoughts and feelings. We're talking about why life is the way it is, what the meaning of objects and shapes are, where dreams come from, all the way into things like theology and morality and ethics. So there's all kinds. Lucas Thomas says, is there a subject we're focusing on, or can we ask anything? Anything. I'm barely focusing on anything, so please just ask away. Last one from Dino, since we're having a good conversation. So do people who follow these teachings read the Bible? If you look at Secrets of Heaven, which is Swedenborg's longest series of books, that entire thing is explaining the inner sense of a couple of the early chapters in the Bible. And then if you look at his last couple books that he was writing, Apocalypse Revealed, Apocalypse Explained, that's all about the book of Revelation, and in between he's got all kinds of biblical references. So he was more biblically focused than I think you'll find anyone. But also the meaning that he found in there resonates even with people who don't traditionally find interest in the Bible, because there's this deeper spiritual truth that's in there. So I think he's where the Christians and the non-Christians can meet and find, we have common ground, and that there's a truth that we're all kind of tapping into. Yoshamar L says, are you Swedenborg reincarnated, Curtis? No. Nope. I'm just like a guy who has a YouTube channel as part of a nonprofit. No, I definitely don't. And if you haven't met many Swedenborgians, you might be like, wow, he knows a lot about Swedenborg. A lot of people who seriously into Swedenborg, who study this stuff and know it. Actually, we're about to meet two of them in just a minute here. Kate said, good question, Mary. Can you scroll up to Mary's question? Where is that? That's probably way up there. Oh, just how do we advance after we get to heaven? So Mary Richards is asking, how do we advance after we get to heaven? Swedenborg calls it being continually perfected in love and wisdom. So that would be, it's through learning and through loving is doing. It's actually making the choice to, I'm not going to do harmful things, I'm going to do positive things through people. So it's like we had progressed spiritually here, but there you just do it more directly and with a lot more options and that kind of thing. Actually, that's a good question. I need help to answer that question. So I think I'm going to bring in here today two very special people. One of them is Karin, that's Cortland right there. Hey, Cortland. Welcome.
Hey, how are you guys?
I'm good. You guys have probably seen Cortland. He was in one of our recent 10 Questions episodes, and he is a student of Swedenborg, and really, I love your insights, especially of the nature, and the one you did for us, the nature of the Lord and a new church and what makes it. So I'm interested to have you here. And then Karin is on the writing team for Swedenborg and Life. Karin, can you say hey?
Hello.
So you should pop up there. Can you She'll pop up in a second. We can hear you though. That's what matters. So did you guys hear what I was talking about? How do you continue? Oh, there's Karen. Hey, how do you continue to progress in heaven? Can I start you off with an easy one like that? How do we keep? Because some people are worried about a static existence in heaven. Where it's just like boring. So what's the game after we playing this game of life? What's the next game?
I want to just mention that there was a show about this called The Heaven Project.
Yes,
where Jonathan
that's right.
Were talking about that we just can have no idea how expansive it is once we cross over that earthly plane. We can learn so much here, and we can develop so much from the time we're a baby to the time we're an adult. And we know you never stop learning. You're 85 and still learning, and the most important learning, Swedenborg says, is learning how to love better. So you can never stop learning, like how to be more loving, how to be more kind, patient, forgiving, all that, as well as just learning information all your life. You can be 87 and still learning amazing things. But Swedenborg indicates that once you cross over and shed this earthly shell, the potential and the ability to learn is infinitely greater. I mean, we have a lot of limitations with our being in physical bodies, physical brains, in the mostly lower earthly state of mind. So we can do a lot here, but it's just gonna like pazzow open in the next life, as long as we're have a desire to walk the path of goodness. It's very limited. If you want to just go deeper and deeper into self-centeredness and materialism, it's a very limited bubble you're putting yourself in. But if you want to have the Lord guide you on the path of goodness, it's just unlimited. Like you and Jonathan were talking about in the show, it's just like every phase of life is just an egg that opens to a whole different level that's different than you ever imagine. It keeps expanding and expanding and expanding. So I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm pumped. Before I switch to you, Cortland, Sharon and Keith, say hi to both of you. Also, somebody asked, what does my bracelet signify? This is not the bracelet I usually wear. This is a pool pass from a hotel that I stayed in, and my daughter likes it, so I wear it. So that's it. But Cortland, do you have any thoughts on the continued growth of the soul?
Just to kind of elaborate on what Karen was saying. Swedenborg often talks about how, and it's difficult when we really think about it, but it's not. But he says we have to take our thoughts away from space and time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're able to do that, you know what I mean, we can understand that the love, wisdom, and use are the three essentials. And they're infinitely internal. They're not trapped in space and time. He talks about when you're caught up in thought, you know what I mean? And you go places. A good example is like when you're reading a book. A lot of times you'll read a book and you're taken to that place.
Yeah.
It takes you outside of space and time. So when we take that in consideration, that the spiritual world, there is no space and time. There are appearances of space and time, but no actual space and time. So when we take that into consideration, we understand, and then we understand that the substance and form in use, because love and wisdom are indeed substance and form when we put them to use. And we realize that they're not trapped in space and time. You know what I mean? Our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions are not trapped in space and time. And our ability, our capacity to bring in knowledge and to feel some type of affection for the knowledge that we bring in, then we start to realize, okay, I can grow to eternity.
Yeah.
Because I can gain knowledge to eternity, and I can have an affection for people, places, and things to eternity. So if I'm an angel, it goes without saying that I am going to grow in wisdom and love and be able to perform uses as a manifestation of that wisdom and love to eternity. And then all we have to do is abstract ourselves from the idea of space and time, which is what kind of blocks us from thinking, or not blocks us, but traps us into thinking that, you know, the spiritual realm is a place to where you're going to eventually get bored.
Yeah, right.
But it's not how it works.
Yeah, it's funny.
So,
Swedenborg often says, like, "Hey, take space and time out of your thoughts. You know, just do it. Just do it.
yeah,
Like that's easy." But
and it's
it's
hard,
hard,
but
but I'm trying. Yeah,
yeah.
that's great. That's a great thought. Marlin Elder says that she likes this shirt that I'm wearing, and you guys know you can go buy these things. This is one of the ornaments from Swedenborg's works. He had these, and with care and labor was a little motto he put on it. Go to Redbubble, find the Swedenborg Foundation's page, and you can pick that up. So we have let's look at another question. Nika the Truth says, can I call on my dead ancestors and family members and friends to help me in this life, just like we call on the divine creator, and can they actually help us? So what do you think about that? Obviously, it seems like they would care about us, but how much impact can our ancestors and other angels on the other side have for us?
When someone asks a question like that, I feel like what I always want to say is always be turning to God for the help. And God has this perfect wisdom about like what people will be the perfect agents to help you. And it doesn't mean you can't talk to your loved ones who are in the afterlife, is just like, your loved ones who are still here on earth, that, that camaraderie is really good. But I feel like the Lord's the one who knows who will be the best helper for you, because the Lord works through people to help us. Sometimes when I'll just like pray for some help with something to the Lord, then somebody happens to call me and say just the right thing, or I run into somebody who just has an idea that helps her. And I know the Lord's helping me through people around me. And I don't, I might not know. Sometimes you do know somebody, like I'll call on this person because I know they have some knowledge about this. But sometimes I feel like with people in the afterlife, you can use the same principle, like turn to God saying, I need help from this. And then I don't see any problem with also just like talking in your mind to somebody you love on the other side or whatever. But also it's the Lord who's, the Lord who knows exactly what angels and spirits are going to be the most help to you. So that's just some thoughts. I always feel like focus towards the Lord, and the Lord will make it all in just the perfect arrangement.
Right. And I know it's Nika, not Nika. Okay. Cortland, do you have any further thoughts on that?
Well, one thing that the first thing that comes to mind for me is that Swedenborg often talks about the dangers of willingly and making an effort to contact spirits.
Yeah.
And basically he says that because what happens is, regardless of our intention and our endeavor, if you are capable and it actually happens where you contact spirits, you are going to contact the spirits that are in accordance with your inner qualities.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of times those inner qualities are spirits that you do not want to be in contact with.
Well, not in my case, but just kidding.
And that's the danger of that. And Swedenborg warns against that. And he just, he says the best way is enlightenment, revelation through the word, prayer, meditation, practicing to the best of our ability, the truths that we learn, because the objective is, and that's how that's the best way to have spiritual contact, and not necessarily direct spiritual contact.
Yeah. We did sorry to cut you off, but we did a show just recently on that called "Is It Safe to Talk to Spirits?" Everyone in the chat, go ahead and take a look at that. We go into that topic a little bit more. Go ahead.
No, I was done.
Okay, good. I thought maybe you were. That's why I was coming in hard like that. Okay. So let's take a look. Another one from Katana. Does God help us with stuff we want and pray for? I was just having a conversation about this. There's it depends on what kind of stuff. Material stuff. I mean, so praying, wanting and praying, those are really spiritual activities. I mean, your desires, the stuff in your heart and mind, that's in your spirit. So I think some people get caught up in the idea that you can make a spiritual request to get physical things. Like, I really want money. So if I pray to God, will he give me money? I don't think it works like that, because I don't think it does, because divine providence is arranging our life. Like when Swedenborg talks about getting into the stream of providence, like the ideal state, It's not that those in the stream of providence always get what they want. It's those that in the stream of providence always know that whatever befalls them is tending towards the greatest good in the end. It's a peace with what is rather than trying to change that. But he does talk about people praying for spiritual things and receiving them. Spiritual things being like enlightenment, understanding, wisdom, discernment, sort of internal things that because it's not that God is withholding and then says, oh, I noticed that you're praying, so I'm going to give it to you. But it's that the act of prayer itself is an acknowledgement that God exists and that God is the source of everything good and true. And so that just the act of acknowledging that opens us up to these very things that we're looking for. So those are my thoughts. Did you guys have anything further?
Cortland, you want to go first this time?
I think when you said providence, when people talk about what the Lord provides, or when you pray for things, and the Lord works through providence from start to finish in every iota of our lives. But there's two types of providence. There's the providence of everything that's good and true, genuinely good and true, regardless of what it is, comes from God. And then, we think about, what about evil and that stuff? When then there's permissive indulgence. And I think permissive indulgence is not that God made it happen, or God allowed it to happen, or God even wanted it to happen, but God knew it would happen.
Yeah.
And then His providence works to provide the things we need to ultimately turn even that evil, whatever it was, or bad or misfortune, into something good. If you said the stream of providence, if we ourselves use our free will to enter back into the stream of providence. And then just one other thing is, a lot of times we forget that what appears to be good to us and things that we pray for, like money, for a lot of people, money can corrupt a soul that would normally be good if they didn't have the money, especially lots of money.
Yeah.
So if we think about it in that context and we think about providence, you not getting the money would be the Lord looking out for you and doing the right thing and giving you what you need, as opposed to you actually getting money that you pray for that would, because, money buys secrecy, and it tends to high levels of money. So, in that sense, a lot of times we might pray for things and the Lord not giving them to us is basically the providence and what, but I mean, we have to know our own character in regards to that. So, and I'm using money as not, don't get me wrong. We all know that there's nothing wrong with being rich and having money. I'm just using it as an example because it certain things that we wish for and that we want for and that we pray for are not good for us. And the Lord actually gives us what we need as opposed to what we want.
Yeah, well, no, it's a great example. And Swedenborg even talks in detail about that wealth can be either a blessing or a curse. That it's not that you have to give up all wealth to be spiritual, but we don't know. I'm Curtis here, right? And if I got super rich, I don't know if it could be that, oh, that's so great, now I can go help a bunch of people. Or it could be that, just like you're saying, I find out that I just get more narcissistic and more controlling and all that. And that's actually, and I don't know. God knows, and God is the kind of controlling the purse strings there.
You can get away with things that you didn't get away with before, or you can do things that you may have not have thought about doing before.
Yeah. Karin,
but it works both ways.
Exactly. Karin, did you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's all so great. And that's why I think, the main thing that's always, like I always want to end every prayer of mine with is, thy will be done. I think, you can talk to God about whatever you're feeling at the moment. Like Jesus did in the Garden of Gethsemane, he expressed that he wished he didn't have to go through what he was about to go through, Father, if this cup can pass from me. But then he ends with, nevertheless, thy will be done, not my will, but thy will. And so you can talk to the Lord about how you're feeling. That's fine. But always turn it over to him in the end, what would be best. So if you're instead of saying, God, take this situation away, ask God, help me have the strength to get through whatever I need to get through today, or help me notice today any way that I can help, no matter what comes up, or what I can learn from it, or, these deeper things. So never let it focus on the external events. You can talk to the Lord about external events. It's okay to feel afraid or nervous or sad or whatever, but turn it over to the Lord. Like, help me to get the gifts out of this that you want to give me. You know, the wake up calls, the learning, the strength, the skills, and because there's gifts that can come out of everything that happens, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. And so I feel like the ultimate prayer is what help me to open to the spiritual gifts that you want to give me through whatever comes my way.
Beautiful. So I know you guys got to go soon, but I want to do one more question, and it's a really good one. This is from Jen M. a little while ago in the chat. It says, is it normal that the closer I get to God, the more frequently you deal with internal struggles? In my heart, things seem to be true, but there are these thoughts in my head that seem to try to confuse me. So as you walk the path closer to the divine, is that a side effect? Does it get harder?
Yes. I'm speaking from personal experience, but guess what? It's different with everybody. Right. It's not, for me, it was extremely difficult, and it gets easier. A lot of times I feel like I've been past the worst part. But at any given time, I can deal with those internal struggles. But it's not the same with everybody, because in all honesty, it depends upon what life you led and where your heart was up to that point. You know what I mean? My heart and my endeavor was quite egotistical. So therefore, my internal struggles were a lot worse than what somebody else's might be.
Just like Swedenborg. Swedenborg was very egotistical before all this was happening. And so he had to really, really wrestle with that as he got opened up.
Yeah, and so to one degree or another, yes, there's going to be what Swedenborg calls temptations, but you only enter those temptations when you're prepared by the Lord. So that's a good sign too, because ultimately there's going to be a victory, although at any given time it can feel like, no, there's not going to be a victory.
Yeah.
But the Lord does not let you enter those struggles unless he's going to bring you through. So that's the bright side. But they're difficult, but they're not the same for everybody. For some people, they can be quite mild. Yeah. But we're all going to experience them once we start that path in that journey.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Karin?
Yeah, I totally agree. I like to say to people that don't think it's a bad sign for your spiritual growth if you start to, notice a lot more junk in yourself, a lot more struggles and everything, because there definitely is an element of the more aware you get, the more you see that needs working on. And that's not a bad sign. It's unpleasant. I don't love seeing all the junk in myself but I know that that's good, because if you don't see, it's like if a disease is deep and hidden and you don't even know about it, it's doing you damage. If you know about it, it's unpleasant, but now you know, and you can, you can be more aware with whatever treatment has to go along. So if you are working to grow towards the Lord and do this repentance and everything, and you just feel like, I just keep saying more and more, I think considered it's a good sign. Just keep turning to the Lord for help. And I find, like Cortland was saying, it's different for everybody. So nobody can say to one person, this is exactly how it would go, and this means this. But I find personally for myself that as I've gotten older, I'll call them the temptations, get more intense when they come up, but they last a shorter time. And that might just be me, but I feel like in past years, I might be like, go into a down state of mind and it would last a very long time. And now I'll just like get something come up and I'm like, in despair for like a day, and then it sort of clears away. And it almost seems like for me, it's getting more intense, but maybe shorter, because I kind of have gained through knowledge from Swedenborg and working on it to recognize that struggles are not a bad sign. It's just like a detox thing going on, and to kind of just go with it. I mean, unpleasant, but don't, and so more I'll just go, okay, Lord, help me get through this. Help me keep my head above water, instead of like, what's going on? What, like sort of rail against the process as much as just kind of like, okay, just help me through this day. Help me to understand some things, whatever. And I just find, for me, that makes the crisis pass more quickly. So,
yeah. Well,
Curtis, can I just add on to that a little bit?
please.
Because it's a necessary process. It has to happen. That spiritual conflict and that spiritual battle, because what's going on is there's an emptying out.
Yeah.
So because in order for us to do genuinely good things, for the purpose of good, those bad things have to be removed, and they're removed gradually. And that's what that spiritual conflict is all about.
Yeah.
So it's a necessary part of getting closer to the Lord. It's not a punishment. It's part of the emptying out and filling up.
I think
and it's a loaded question, and there's a whole lot that can be said upon it, but it's a good thing.
Yeah, and it's with all the questions. There's so much more we could go into.
Yeah.
I want to stick with the metaphor that you guys, the metaphor of health that Karin was giving earlier. Swedenborg gives you sort of a framework for understanding. If I didn't know anything about exercise and I just went for a run, I would say that was terrible. I mean, like I was, after a little while, I was like breathing, my legs hurt, like I feel horrible. The next day, my legs were sore. Like I'm never doing that again. But we know that everything, even eating healthy foods, like I would start and say, wait, these taste much worse. Like I'm not doing this. That's not healthy for me. But understanding the context that that feel the burn is actually good. That it's not that the burn itself is good, but we know that that's the where it's taken us. Yeah,
and that Swedenborg says, like Cortland was saying, we have to do this emptying out. Swedenborg says junk, evils, our hereditary stuff cannot be removed from us until it rises to the surface, and then it's washed away, because we have to consent to it. Like, so we have to see it. We have to, understand this junk is in me. So that can't happen without a temptation to kind of brings things to the surface, creates this turmoil, so I can see this junk, but it's helping me consent to what I want and don't want, if that makes any sense. So,
totally.
So it has to come to the surface, has to get out, like a poison coming out of your body.
So you can make a rational, free choice about it.
Yeah. And even if you don't always understand what's going on, but Swedenborg says that even if you don't totally understand what's going on in your earthly mind, there's a process going on, a battle that is bringing something up, sorting it out, and emptying it out. It's kind of nicer if you understand a little bit what's going on, because you can, okay, this is my issue of wanting to control things coming up again. Then you're all the more able to cooperate with it. So that's the good thing about repentance, like taking a look, like, what is this really about?
Yeah.
Am I upset because my agenda is not going on? Then you can cooperate it with it more. But it seems like even if you don't fully understand that something good is happening, and if you do understand a little bit from self-examination, all the better.
Yes.
And biblically speaking, you can't serve two masters.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So one of them got to go.
That's right. Yeah. As much as they both have their pros and cons,
Yeah.
Or they seem that way. Thanks so much, Cortland and Karin, for coming. I really enjoyed your insights here.
A pleasure. Thank you.
All right.
I was happy to do it.
All right. I'll talk to you guys later. Everyone else in the chat, don't worry, we're not going anywhere yet. Stuart, can you sign us back into the chat there? And go up. Go up. I saw something rolling through here. It's up. I think it was our friend Katana. Up a little bit farther. Up a little bit farther. Where is it? Oh, some people saying thanks to Cortland and Karin. That's great. A little bit farther. Hey, there's been a lot of comments here. No, it's there. Katana AC. People dislike me at school for being ugly. Does that mean God is punishing me? And I feel like I have to talk about that, because first of all, you're not ugly, and there's absolutely no way that God is punishing you. There's a couple things I want to say about that. First of all, God doesn't punish anybody. That Swedenborg says to do anything, even to frown at us, would be against the essence of God, and as such is something. So God is never going to punish us, and much less like inflict, like, hey, we're going to have people make fun of you for that. That that is just, people are jerks, and relatively superficial. Even at my age, when I was in school, I was a lot less thoughtful than I am now, and I would say stupid things that I definitely would not say. But the thing I want to communicate is, there's absolutely no way that God is upset with you. Just because bad things are happening to us does not mean we're deserving it or we're being punished. We're doing a show upcoming about some of the issues with punishment and what that is, but it's not something that gets enacted on earth. It's not like, oh, I'm bad, so this bad thing happens to me. It's just that we're all kind of, as we were saying before, there's evil in the world, evil in people. We all at times are mean to people, and then at other times we're the victims of that. But it's just because the human heart is messed up, that there's not heaven on earth, and that there's an equilibrium in the spiritual world, but hell gets through there a lot, comes through the mouths of other people attacking you. As Cortland was saying, that's not God wanting that to happen. It's that God sees, okay, this is going to happen, but in the end, I'm going to bring goodness out of it. That somehow, and I don't know how, in the end, everything's going to be okay. That your spirit is going to be just fine, and your happiness is going to be just fine. And everybody who's doing that, who's making fun of you, hopefully they'll be really sorry about it once they mature a bit. And if not, they're going to have to face that, because as Swedenborg says, everything bad that we've done, we have to face. If we're not repentant, if we're like, okay, I'm so sorry I did it, it's not rubbed in our faces. But anyway, I'm going on, but hopefully that makes sense, because it's super important to understand that God is not punishing, and that because I don't like when somebody's suffering and then they on top of it think, oh, so God hates me too. No, according to everything I know, no, that's not how it is. So we got a couple of comments here. So if you let's see. Love the show about what God cannot do. That's what Sharon says. That's a great one for understanding the nature of the Lord and why he can't go against that. Absolutely. Divine design, and that this is why harmful things exist in the world instead of God just snuffing them out, because there's a better path to perfection. That God, even though we think, I would run the world differently, somehow this is all leading towards the most loving end for everybody, as unbelievable as that seems. Mary Richards is here. Her audio was off. I'm glad that you're back. Hey, Nika says, Curtis, will you ever do in-person community events or always online? I want to do in person. Which I'm trying to figure out exactly how that is. I was thinking so we're on the East Coast in the Philadelphia area, so I don't know how many of you are close to that, but I'd love to be able to do something that if people want to travel and come here. I was thinking we have our annual meeting of the Swedenborg Foundation once a year. I think it's in the early spring in April, and I was thinking, hey, we could do like a sort of a weekend, where there's the annual meeting and maybe we do like a live taping of a show, but also like get people together for community and groups. The answer is I absolutely want to do that. I'm just trying to figure out how are we going to think of good stuff for people to do. So if you guys want to make it happen, keep writing in and saying we want that, and give your thoughts on what we could be doing. Kate says, yes, please tour the UK. I'm going to be in London on August 25th. There's a conference called the Conference for Consciousness and Human Evolution, tcche.org. Search that and you'll see I'm one of the speakers at that conference. So if you want to see me talk, you have to pay to get into the conference. That's why I haven't been plugging it too much on this channel, just because, I don't want to try to say, come see me, you have to pay a bunch of money. But I will be there then. But yeah, we'd love to be doing take Swedenborg stuff on the road and go, because we got to find out where are all of you, where are there enough people that we could do something and get together and do it. So I really would like to do that, and I'm bursting with excitement too. Yes, so someone's here from East Tennessee, Lynn, great. So we got people all over the place. I'm just reading a couple of the comments. Yeah, the Swedenborg mentioned a life review at the time of death from Mr. Oakhill 246. Do we get to rewatch our life? He has things in there that now I look at and say, oh yeah, that's like a life review, but I wouldn't have picked that out. I mean, the near-death literature, like the Raymond Moody Life After Life and everything that followed near-death experiences, really, really hone in on that life review. And so it's brought it to my attention, and now I'm realizing Swedenborg does talk about that. He calls it the Book of Life. where he says everything is recorded, and he talks about people. He gives little examples of snippets people go through. He didn't say, oh, when you get there, the first thing you do is go all the way through your life. But I certainly believe it's true. And now, from that basis, I can totally piece together in the parts of Swedenborg where he is supporting that. He uses it in context to make other points, but it seems like he does say that also when you first go to the other side, angels render every service that you could need. I'm imagining that falls under that, because it seems like just everybody who goes through these life reviews feels like they're so. I'm talking about people who have had near-death experiences come back to tell us about it, but they say that these are so helpful and like the best therapy you could also have. Keith Curry says, have you done a frequently asked questions show? Not really. I mean, we try to do like the 10 questions. The problem is you get so many questions of so many different kinds when you're dealing with Swedenborg. And there are so many topics that Swedenborg covers. As I said, it's everything from life on other planets to societies of spirits to the layers within layers of creation to how the human being is a picture of the whole. So we get so many different questions that there's not necessarily like a list of frequently asked. What we try to do, I'll tell you a little story. So there's a Facebook page called facebook.com/Heaven and Hell Swedenborg. That I used to, when I just barely worked for Swedenborg Foundation, I would run that and try to answer people's questions as they came up, like comment questions. And one of the reasons I wanted to start doing more videos was to answer questions I got frequently. So if there was one that came up a lot, I'd make a video about it. In short, what we try to do is our entire video catalog is frequently asked questions, and some more than others, but it would be good to do just like, hey, here's an FAQ show. But the problem is figuring out what are the frequently asked questions. We get questions from so many sources about so many things, but it would be good. So Ben Gabe, I'm a frequent lucid dreamer. So you guys get to see now. You see on the screen how bad I am at pronouncing things. I'm a frequent lucid dreamer. Did Swedenborg consider lucid dreams to be a form of contact with the other side? And if so, what do you think I could be doing to be more productive in that state? Swedenborg's, we did a show, Ben, that's called 5 Types of Spiritual Experiences, or 5 kinds, I believe, of spiritual experiences. Look in there, we have a section on lucid dreaming, and that Swedenborg very clearly describes, he says, a state in which I was asleep, but my inner senses were fully awake. Like he's describing what seems like the term lucid dreaming wasn't being used at that time, but it seems like he's describing exactly that. And so he very much does believe that that's contact with the spiritual world. Now, as you'll also see, we did a show called Where Dreams Come From. You can check out. See, this is the FAQ stuff. I'm giving you links, all these links to these titles because we get some questions about this. But that dreams can be a mixture of direct experience of the spiritual world or representative things like that. Spirits are talking about something and it pops up in the concepts that are in your own memory because that's how you understand their conversation, all the way down to illusions and hell is trying to trick us and that sort of thing. So it could be any of the above. I'm always hesitant to say this is exactly what you're experiencing is because there's so many possibilities. Hey from North Alabama, love having you watching. So you see what I mean? It could be any number of things. And as far as being more productive in that state, that's beyond my realm of expertise. I don't know what's trying to be accomplished there or how. I would say try to bring the same integrity to that state that you bring to this one. If sometimes people who figure out they can lucid dream, they're just like, oh, I'll go do all this questionable stuff that I'm not allowed to do here. See what it's like, can you whatever higher principles you feel like you're living by, if you live by them there, aren't you building your spirit within your spirit? I'm guessing, but it sounds good to me. Nika, it's 5 kinds of spiritual experiences. It's probably 4 or 5 weeks old. And Matthew Bush says, Curtis, what's the best way to make suggestions? What kind of suggestions are you talking? Suggestions for our programming? Is that what you mean? Let me know, and I'll answer that. Zeb, first I'll do. Oh man, there's all these good questions. I'll do Basia Tirkalashaka. Are those people that we see on TV speak to people in the afterlife? Are those people real? Do any of them know? Do any of you know any good ones? Okay, so you guys can answer that. I would imagine it's a mix. I would imagine some people are really in touch with something. Some people are just trying to make a career, just like it is in a lot of other professions. Sharon says, I think of Swedenborg as a prophet. Is that a correct assumption, Curtis? I think so. I mean, I think that's a good way that he's providing a similar role that that people that wrote the various books of the Bible are providing. That, I mean, it sounds like a really strong word, but that he's got a mission to write something down that's of help to people. So I could use that terminology. Zeb says, have you gathered global data on where most Swedenborg followers are? Is it Sweden? Matthias, I think you're right, Starseed. I think not many Swedes know who he is. It doesn't seem like he's huge in his home country. They're actually, I mean, of our people who are tuning into our stream or our channel, we get the most from the United States, but it may just be that we're primarily going after English-speaking countries because pretty much all of our programming is in English. I know there's a decent number of people in Africa that are into the sort of organized Swedenborgian churches. But that's about as far as I know. There's not that many. Well, I hope there's a lot more than I realize. I hope there are big groups of people that I don't even know about that are watching Swedenborg. But it seems like that it's not Sweden where he's the biggest. I don't know about per capita though. Obviously, the United States' population is larger than Sweden. So are there more people who know about Swedenborg per capita? I don't know. And that's the kind of thing that hopefully we can figure out and then go visit the places where there's a lot of people. Marilyn Elder says, thank you, Curtis, for responding on these comments here. That's why I'm here. That's the point of this, is we're trying to make you guys a part of the conversation. So hopefully, I'm getting to enough of you. It's like this balance. How long do I spend on each question? Because there's so many great. Matthew Bush says, programming. Okay, so you're wondering what is the best way to make a suggestion for programming. Well, we try to check everything everywhere. We try to, believe it or not, we're trying to check all the YouTube comments. The chat is the worst place because the chat after the show is over disappears. So we don't have time to get to it like we do to the regular YouTube comments. People email us at offtheLeftEye@gmail.com. People will send us Facebook messages on our organizational Facebook page. Really, we try to check all those because we're so shocked and grateful that I can't believe this is happening. That there would be this many people who want to talk about Swedenborg stuff. For a long time, the Swedenborg Foundation, myself, other people who knew of Swedenborg just thought, nobody cares. No one would. It doesn't seem like anyone's interested in Swedenborg. So we're so excited that all of you are interested that we go and just listen to everything you guys are writing and saying because we want to connect about it. Austin Paranormal Research says, cheers, how are you? So that suggest it anywhere. I'd say email us, offtheLeftEye@gmail.com is probably the best thing. Or go to patreon.com/offtheLeftEye and post a message there because we really look at those because those are the people helping to make this possible financially. Stuart, you have a one? Virginia. This is from Virginia Maglione. How about someone who is mentally ill and taught evil things to their children? When they cross over, are they shown their mental illness? And then do they have a choice between good and evil? So again, I don't know everything in specifics, but certainly it seems like everybody is given a chance to make rational choices, that nobody can be condemned or have something become a permanent part of them that they didn't choose freely and rationally. And Swedenborg says states of mental illness, we're not fully free and not fully rational because we can't, depending on what you've got, you can't fully understand your situation and make a free choice like the rest of us. So he does say that those put certain things on hold and then those are corrected in the afterlife. So I would imagine that if a person really was, can you go back up to that? I want to see like the specifics of that. Who is mentally ill and taught evil things to their children. So depending on how, like, if the person is only believing those things because of their mental illness, they would get a chance to be freed from them. Swedenborg does say that if we are free and rational and grab onto ideas and really want to hold on to them because we love what's behind them, it's really hard to convince us out of that angels will always tell you the truth, but you'll believe it for a little while, but then you'll push it out when you get by yourself and you kind of go back to the life of what you love. But anything that's as a result of mental illness, I think you would be corrected on. And no matter what, anybody who's doing something harmful, like you say, teaching something harmful to their children, anybody who's harmed somebody has to face that. So Swedenborg talks about people who tried to deny harmful things they did and it being shown in front of everyone, like this life review, the book of life. So it's not that you're going to be able to have caused great harm in people's lives and then you just never know and you just don't care. And, so that's not the way that it works according to Swedenborg. So Oh, Matthias says, I think only people who have a high grade of study know who he is. In Sweden, I'm Swedish, and I know who he is now when I got into spirituality. Okay, so hopefully we make it so that there's enough Swedenborg stuff on the web that if people search or are searching for something similar, they come across something Swedenborgy and get hooked. Nika says, how did you stumble across the show? You're talking to Harlan, sorry to butt in, but I always want to know, how did any of you find this show? How did you get onto this? Were you searching for something else? So if you want to write it here or message us or whatever, I love to hear, like, how did you come into this and what made you want to stick with it? You know, because that helps us know what to put out. But I'm just interested also in what's valuable about Swedenborg for people. Sharon says, Nika says, looking up alien stuff. Yeah, that's right. Well, there's one way to do it. That Swedenborg reaches into so many worlds that you could be searching for almost anything and come across him. Sharon says, C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien were keenly aware of Swedenborg's writings, as were so many people. There was just this conference here nearby Brynathan College that was called the Swedenborg and the Arts Conference. And I think there's some footage from it. If you go to Brynathan College's YouTube channel, I think there's footage, maybe from some of the presentations. I don't know if they've put it up or not, but this was all talking about the massive impact that Swedenborg had on the art world that not many people are aware of. That are so many, even though his name is not that out there, a lot of key influencers were well aware of him. And hopefully, you know, he's changed a lot. Part of the city of Chicago in the United States was designed based on Swedenborg, but barely anybody knows that. There's all this behind the scenes influence. The Swedenborg Foundation put out this big, fat book about all the things Swedenborg has influenced. Inez Garzianti says, I just found out about this show and I've been interested in religion for a long time, but I was so put off by all the hypocrisy. This first show I actually I watched was Adam and Eve. We did a show called The Meaning of Adam and Eve. Well, I'm glad that we didn't seem like that hypocritical, that you did want to stick around with us. So that's cool. And it's cool to know that, right, the Adam and Eve one was the first one to pull you in. Lucas Thomas says, I came across Swedenborg a year ago looking up near-death experiences, specifically Howard Storm's story. Yes, we had Howard Storm on this channel in an interview, and maybe that was a suggested video, but that shows what my point right there. You can come across Swedenborg looking for aliens all the way into a meaning of a biblical story all the way into people's personal spiritual experiences. So there's so many different avenues because there's so much covered. Virginia says, Google found him. My beliefs resonated with his at the same time. With Ginger. So that's right. And then Matthew Bush has a lot of famous Swedenborgians. Yeah, I mean, you know, Johnny Appleseed, Helen Keller, etc., etc. Oh, Kate says, I came across a blog by Lee Woofenden who mentioned Emanuel Swedenborg. So I Googled him and found Off the Left Eye. So grateful I did. We're grateful you came. And yeah, Lee Woofenden's cool. I've read some of his stuff as well. He's a Swedenborgian blogger. There are a few of them out there. Yeah, so take your time. Find all the different voices in Sweden, in the whatever it's called, Swedenborgianism or whatever we want to call it. But find them, see what you like, because there's all kinds of people who know how to explain it in their own way. And, you may find someone who really resonates with you. Keith Curry says, I found you guys after searching for info about spiritual marriage. Yeah, so we did an episode on that. And that's right, looking for relationships, and that's a whole different world. So Mary Richards says, my husband died, and before he died, he was blind in his left eye. And that is how I found you, because the references to the left eye. Wow. So sorry, Mary, for your loss, and just an amazing coincidence that led you in here. And hopefully, you know, he's somehow aware that you're engaging with this stuff, and that somehow it's giving you some kind of connection to him here. But thank you for being willing to share that here. So Nika says, what is spiritual marriage? We can marry spirits. No, that's like Swedenborg had this book called Conjugal Love. That's in some translations. It's also translated married love. It's where he talks about the deep, deep connection that married partners can have. Not just like an outward physical societal connection, but a spirit level. So the spirit of one person with the spirit of the other person joined in this amazingly deep bond that he called married love or conjugal love, and that could continue after death and even forever. Our show, Spiritual Marriage, is about that. Inez says, how did you come to Swedenborg? Curtis, I always knew about Swedenborg. I mean, my parents were in a Swedenborgian church, so Swedenborg has been around since I knew what anything was. So no exciting story for me. I just like that it was always around. But I, came to love it through its practical application in my own life. Happy heaven since I found out about religion when I started studying the founder of a particular religion, internet videos and videos later. So just the passage through YouTube. Oh, so Mr. Oakhill says, what about you, Curtis? What about the first Swedenborg book that you read and got you so interested? Love this channel. Love having you here. So I gave a short answer there, but I'll give you a longer one. So I really started to like the stuff that Swedenborg was saying, probably in his Journal of Spiritual Experiences, about how the spiritual world interacts with our consciousness and the origin of thoughts and feelings, which incidentally is what my presentation in London is going to be about. But that really started to hook me as an adult. I'd heard Swedenborg stuff before, but the way that let me navigate my sort of mental landscape, I was like, "Ooh, this is cool. What's that?" So that was kind of part of something that really started to make it real for me. It became something that wasn't just a curiosity, but could really help. Zeb Rogers says, when you come to the UK in this visit or in the future, could you appear on a TV chat show such as Breakfast TV or This Morning? Worth looking into. I would love to. They probably won't want me on there, but maybe if Swedenborg Foundation gets a little more popular, they'll take us in. But yeah, would love to chat. So, Cash Johnny Curtis, do you know Yahshua? I don't know. What is that? Could you say a little bit more about who that is, or what that is? Is that Yahshua, like Jesus, the original name for Jesus, or is that there's a couple extra letters in there? Is that somebody different than that? Lynn Rowley says, have you ever had Eben Alexander on the show? No, but he's on our list. I've seen him give a speech. This year we're going to try to get him on the program. We just haven't gotten around to giving him a good ask. I know he probably gets a lot of asks, but he might be interested. So I will be trying to get him on the program. So Kendall says, time for water. Do you read Jacob Boehme as well, or is he a bit too hard to follow for you? It could well be that he's too hard to follow, but really I've never tried. I've been reading some people, but Swedenborg reading takes so much of my time that it's hard to dive into a whole other thing. Is there something about Jacob Boehme that you like, or that is he worth taking a read of? And if so, is there anything I would read first? Because I am interested in continuing to expand and that kind of thing. So Nika thinks that I'm being preached to, probably by Cash Johnny. We'll see. But if do I know God? Then I'm trying. I think I know some parts, and my life, the point of my life is to get to know better and better, and try to follow the plan that I think is laid out. So in that regard, I'd say, God knows me, and I'm trying to know more and more. So there's my thought on that. Matthias says, today I went to the library. They had 3 books of Swedenborg in Swedish. That's cool, man. I think he wrote a lot of his books in Latin, but I think he wrote his whole spiritual diary in Swedish. Stuart, do you know? I think he wrote the whole diary in Swedish. So that's a good place to end, because it's me saying I think, but I don't really know, which is what this whole thing is. Everybody, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for coming. As I said, this Monday we have a 10 questions show that's posting. The following Monday at 8 p.m. we're going to do this thing live. We haven't decided yet if we're doing another one of these at 3. So leave your comments after this is over. Do we want to do another one of these next week? Or is that too many because we're going to do one on Monday? We got to figure that out. In the meantime, this has worked better than I could have hoped. Kendall says I would recommend Neville Goddard. Look up his videos on YouTube. Will do. Inez says thanks. Keith says thanks. You're very welcome. Mr. Oakhill says, I have a feeling these teachings will be more mainstream within the next decade or so. 1 million subs, no doubt. You know what? I'm with you. Let's do it. Let's all make it happen together. You're welcome, everybody. Thank you. I enjoy these live chats as well. We're going to sign off. Hope you have a really great weekend, and look forward to our 10 questions show on Monday. Support us on Patreon. You've been great. Later.